Officer Dana Reese sat behind the dispatch desk, sipping lukewarm coffee and absent-mindedly scrolling through her phone. It was just past 2 a.m., the dead hour. Nothing ever happened at this time, until it did. The 911 phone line rang, a sharp, jarring sound in the quiet room. Dana's fingers flew to the receiver. 911, what's your emergency? There was a pause. Then a small, broken whisper came through the line. He's back. Dana straightened up, her spine like a rod of ice. Who's back, honey? Are you in danger? Silence again. She leaned in closer, her ear almost pressed to the receiver. Can you tell me your name, your address? The voice came again, this time trembling, barely audible. This is Milo Jensen. My dad, he's back. He's in the house. Dana blinked. Milo Jensen. That name meant something. A second later, it hit her like a punch to the chest. Milo's father, Grant Jensen, had been executed by lethal injection exactly 64 days ago for the brutal murder of 3 women, including his own wife, Milo's mother. Okay, Milo, Dana said carefully, already signaling to another officer to trace the call. You're doing great. I'm sending someone to your house right now. Stay on the line, okay? I can't, Milo whispered. He said if I talk too long, he'll know. The line went dead. 5 minutes later, squad cars tore down Hollow Creek Lane, lights off, engines low. Officer Tom Rayner led the charge, heart pounding. He remembered Grant Jensen's trial all too well, how calm the man had looked, how he never admitted guilt, even when the evidence was overwhelming. The state had put him down like a rabid dog. There was no way he could be alive. And yet Milo's call played on repeat in Tom's head. He's back. The house came into view. An aging 2-story nestled behind a rusted gate and overgrown hedges. All the lights were off. No signs of movement. The officers approached in formation, weapons drawn. Tom knocked. No answer. He glanced at Officer Carly Hughes beside him. She nodded. They breached the door. The inside was pitch black and ice cold, colder than it should have been in late spring. Their boots echoed against the hardwood floors as they swept the living room. Furniture lay untouched, a layer of dust, suggesting no one had sat on the couch in weeks. A framed family photo rested crooked on the wall. The glass cracked down the middle, splitting Grant Jensen's face from the rest of his family. Clear down here, Carly called from the kitchen. Tom signaled to check upstairs. As he climbed, something shifted. A noise soft, like fabric brushing against fabric. He froze, listened. There it was again. A faint rustle. It came from the far bedroom, Milo's room. Tom motioned, and Carly joined him. They approached the door slowly. Milo, Tom called gently. It's the police. You're safe now. No answer. He pushed the door open. The room was a mess, clothes thrown everywhere, posters torn off the walls, and in the corner, curled up on the floor, was Milo. The boy looked pale, shaking. His eyes were locked on the closet across the room. Tom rushed over, pulling the boy into his arms. You're okay, we're here now. But Milo didn't relax. He didn't even seem to see them. He's in there, the boy whispered. He told me to stay quiet. Tom's heart hammered. He turned to the closet door. Come out now, he ordered. Whoever's in there, come out with your hands up. No sound. He stepped forward, one hand on the knob, the other on his weapon. He flung the door open, empty, just clothes, an old shoebox, and a backpack. No one inside. Carly frowned. You sure someone was? Then Milo screamed. He thrashed in Tom's grip, pointing toward the hallway. He was right there. Just now. You let him go. Tom spun, gun raised, but again, nothing, just shadows and silence. Carly moved to the hall. There's no way anyone could have slipped past us. The stairs are blocked by 2 officers. Milo sobbed into Tom's shoulder, his whole body convulsing. I saw him. He smiled at me. Tom exchanged a look with Carly. They were trained to handle mental breakdowns, even in children, but this felt different, too real. They took Milo to the station for safety and called in a forensic team to sweep the house. At the station, Dana Reese reviewed the call again. She played the recording on loop, leaning in close, straining to catch every word. He's back. But then something she hadn't noticed before, a whisper, low, not Milo's voice. She turned up the volume, isolating the last 2 seconds of the call, static. Then a murmur, not quite clear. She played it again, slower, still distorted. But there was something there. She called in the audio technician. "Can you clean this up?" He nodded and got to work. It took nearly an hour, but when he was done, they played the isolated audio once more. The boy's voice whispered, "He's back." Then underneath it, rougher, deeper, "Did you miss me, son?" Dana recoiled. There was no mistaking it. Two voices. The second one chillingly familiar. She pulled up an old interview from the prison records. Grant Jensen's voice, calm, slow, precise. The tone matched, but how? He was dead, officially pronounced at 6:12 p.m., February 17th, cremated, buried, gone. Unless he wasn't. Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you are watching from today and what time you are currently watching this video. If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more. Officer Tom Rainer couldn't stop thinking about that voice. He kept hearing it over and over in his head. "Did you miss me, son?" It didn't matter that the prison had confirmed Grant Jensen's death. It didn't matter that the body had been officially cremated and the ashes given to a distant cousin. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. At the station, Milo sat in a quiet room, wrapped in a blanket. He hadn't spoken since arriving. His eyes stared at the wall, wide and empty. A therapist sat with him, trying to reach him, but he didn't blink. He didn't flinch. It was like his body was present, but his mind was stuck somewhere else. Tom watched from the other side of the glass with Officer Carly Hughes. "You believe him, don't you?" she asked. Tom didn't answer right away. "I've been a cop for 16 years. I've seen kids lie. I've seen them scared. But this isn't normal fear." He saw something. Carly's voice dropped. "What if it was his dad?" Tom shook his head. "We watched the execution on video. Remember? I was there. I signed the damn witness sheet." Then explain the voice. Explain how a dead man ends up in his kid's room. No one had an answer. Later that morning, Dana called Tom into the tech room. She looked pale. On the screen was a side-by-side of two audio waveforms, one from the 911 call, the other from a prison interview with Grant Jensen 2 years ago. "They match," she said, voice tight. "I ran it through voice recognition software 3 times. The voice on the 911 call is Grant Jensen." Tom leaned in. "You're saying he's alive?" "I'm saying his voice is. Somehow." The tension in the room was suffocating. That same morning, Milo finally spoke again. He was sketching something on a piece of notebook paper with a dull pencil. It looked like a door, only it was drawn in heavy black lines, with long twisted arms reaching out of it. One of the arms had a wristwatch, the kind Grant always wore in the courtroom. Milo didn't look up when Tom walked in. "He comes from the closet now," the boy said flatly. "But he doesn't walk like he used to. He floats." Tom knelt beside him. "Did you see him again last night, after the call?" Milo nodded. "He was mad, I told." "What did he do?" The boy paused, then whispered, "He stood over me while I pretended to sleep. He whispered things. Said I was just like him. Said I'd understand one day." Tom's blood turned cold. Back at the Jensen house, the forensic team was wrapping up when something strange happened. Officer Bailey, one of the newer guys, went up to the attic to check for structural damage. The rest of the team was downstairs, cataloging Milo's destroyed bedroom, when they heard a crash. By the time they reached the attic, Bailey was gone. At first they thought he'd fallen through the floor, but there was no hole, no signs of collapse. His radio was still on, crackling with static, lying in the middle of the wooden floor. A faint smell of sulfur hung in the air. A search was launched across the neighborhood, then the surrounding woods. No tracks, no blood, no sign he had even left the house. It was like he had vanished. That night, Dana reviewed the attic camera feed. The motion sensor had triggered at 2:17 a.m., the exact time Bailey went up. The video showed him stepping into the attic, flashlight in hand, then darkness, not a power outage. The video just turned black for 3 seconds. When it came back on, Bailey was gone. No sound, no struggle, just gone. By the following evening, word had spread through the town. Whispers of Grant Jensen's return were bouncing between neighbors, news outlets, and even local conspiracy forums. Everyone had their own theory: faked execution, secret twin, even government cover-up. The police kept it quiet. Officially, Bailey was missing during inspection. Unofficially, everyone was scared out of their minds. Tom decided to revisit the execution files. Something was gnawing at him. He called the prison. "I need the full death protocol," he told the warden. "All documents, footage, witness logs, everything." The warden sounded annoyed, but agreed. A courier delivered a thick stack of files and a flash drive that night. Tom pored over them for hours at his kitchen table, red pen in hand. The procedure seemed normal at first. Sedative administered, then the heart-stopping drugs, pronounced dead, bagged, cremated. But then he found a strange note. Body exhibited delayed response post-injection. Reflexive twitch observed at 6:07 p.m. Personnel advised this was muscle spasm. That wasn't rare, but the signature under the note wasn't familiar. Dr. Elias Granger. Tom checked the list of certified medical examiners. No one named Elias Granger worked for the state at the time. He called the prison. "Who was Elias Granger?" Silence. "Then that name's not in our system. But he signed off on the death." More silence. "Then sir, no one by that name worked here. Not then. Not ever." Tom's throat went dry. Then who the hell confirmed the body? Back at the station, Milo's behavior changed. He started drawing again. Dozens of images. Every single one featured a shadowy figure, with no eyes. Just black holes where the eyes should have been. Long arms, cracked fingernails. Always standing in a doorway or closet. Always staring. Then he began whispering to himself. At first the therapist thought he was mumbling out of fear. But Carly stood outside the door one evening and realized he wasn't speaking English. She recorded it on her phone and brought it to Dana. "What is it?" Dana asked. Carly hit play. The recording was scratchy but clear. A long string of strange, harsh syllables. It didn't sound like any known language. Tom called in a linguist from the university nearby. After hours of analysis, she returned with a chilling theory. "This sounds like an old dialect. Ancient, something similar to early Babylonian. It's not exact, but there are elements that match, especially with phrases related to summoning or resurrection." "Summoning?" Dana echoed. The woman nodded. "He's saying something like, 'The door is open, he walks again.'" Tom sat down hard. Milo wasn't just scared. He was speaking in tongues, things a 10-year-old shouldn't know. That night, Tom couldn't sleep. He lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling, when his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, he's already home." Then an attachment. It was a photo. Milo asleep in the station's safe room, and standing over him, barely visible in the shadows, was the shape of a tall man with no eyes. The timestamp was 4 minutes ago. Tom jumped up, grabbing his gun. The station was locked down. Cameras monitored 24/7. There was no way anyone could have gotten inside, unless they never left. Tom raced into the station, his heart thudding in his chest. The halls were dim, quiet, except for the distant hum of the vending machine. He stormed through the front, badge out, past the night desk officer. "I need eyes on Milo, now." The officer stood, startled. "He's in the safe room, hasn't moved." Tom didn't wait. He sprinted down the hallway, his boots echoing off the tiled floor. He passed the interrogation rooms, pushed through the secure doors, and reached the reinforced room where Milo had been kept since the 911 call. The room was cold. A small desk lamp glowed on the side table. Milo was asleep on a cot, curled up in the blanket, alone. Tom stepped in carefully, gun still drawn. He checked the corners. Empty. Closet. Empty. Under the cot. Clear. He turned on the lights. Nothing. Still, his skin crawled. Someone had sent that photo, and it wasn't from inside the building. He pulled out his phone, opened the picture again, and zoomed in. That shadow. It wasn't just standing there. It was leaning forward like it had been whispering something to Milo. Tom backed out of the room and called for Dana. "I need every second of security footage from the last 10 minutes reviewed. Check every hallway, every corner." She was already 2 steps ahead, pulling up live camera feeds. "No one's come in or out," she said. "There's no footage of anyone entering Milo's room." "What about phones? GPS?" "That photo was taken inside." Dana frowned. There was no signal activity nearby. No pings. Whoever sent that message isn't on the grid. Tom's mind was racing. Someone had access, someone with eyes in the building. He decided it was time to talk to the cousin who claimed Grant's ashes. Her name was Sheila Drayton, a retired nurse who lived 3 towns over. Grant's side of the family had kept their distance since the trial. Sheila hadn't spoken publicly about the case, nor had she ever visited Milo. She was a name on paper, a formality. Tom drove up alone, parked by her small farmhouse, and knocked on the peeling screen door. It creaked open slowly. A thin woman in her 60s stood behind it, wearing a faded sweater and holding a tea towel. "Detective Rayner?" "That's right," Tom said, flashing his badge. "I need to talk to you about your cousin, Grant Jensen." She stared for a moment, then stepped aside. "Come in." The house was warm but smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and cat litter. A pot of tea was on the stove, but she didn't offer any. Tom sat at her kitchen table, pulling out a small recorder. "You signed for his remains. Is that correct?" She nodded. "I didn't want to, but there was no one else." "Did you receive ashes?" She paused. "They gave me a sealed box, told me not to open it, said it was procedure. I buried it in my garden." Tom frowned. "You didn't confirm it was him." "I didn't want to." Her voice trembled. "He was evil, detective. I didn't want a part of him in my house." "Do you still have the burial spot marked?" She hesitated. "Yes, it's under the old bird bath." Tom stood. "I need to dig it up." An hour later, Tom was crouched in Sheila's backyard with gloves and a flashlight, clearing dirt from under the cracked bird bath. After a few inches, he struck metal, a sealed box, just as she described. He pulled it out, sat back on his heels, and stared. It felt too light. Back at the station, the box was opened under proper supervision. It was filled with sand. No ashes, no bone fragments, just regular sand. Tom stared at the contents, jaw tight. This box was never tested, never verified. Dana looked just as shocked, which means the body was never cremated. They had no proof Grant was dead, only the word of a prison that now had a ghost employee on record, and a faked cremation. Tom called the state correctional office. He demanded to speak to the supervisor in charge during Grant's execution. The man on the phone sounded tense. "That was handled internally," he said. "A special request from a federal observer. They didn't tell us why." "What federal observer?" Name was listed as Elias Granger. Brought his own paperwork. Sealed orders. Tom's skin prickled. "Where is that paperwork now?" "Gone." After the execution, he took everything with him. Said it was classified. Tom hung up without another word. Back at the station, Dana ran a background check on Elias Granger. She scanned every government database, federal employment record, even private medical licenses. Nothing. It was as if he didn't exist. Meanwhile, Milo had begun speaking again, but only during sleep. The therapist installed a voice recorder in his room to capture anything useful. That night, Tom and Carly listened in from the tech room. At 2:14 a.m., Milo stirred. A minute later, his voice broke through the static. But it wasn't just him. Another voice answered, low, gravelly, like it was pressed right against his ear. Tom sat up straight. "Pause that. Rewind." Dana played it again, slower. "Milo, I don't want to go." Unknown voice. "But you already started, son. You came to the gate." "You, Milo. You're not real." Unknown voice. "You called me. You opened it." Tom's hands clenched. The conversation didn't sound like a dream. It was back and forth, a dialogue. And most chilling of all, it was the exact same tone and speech pattern as Grant. Dana isolated the audio and ran the waveform. Same result as before. "It's him," she confirmed. Same voice. Identical. The next morning, Milo woke up screaming. Tom ran to the room, and Milo clung to him, his small hands digging into his jacket. "He was here," Milo cried. "He was inside the walls. I saw his fingers. I saw his face in the vent." Tom scanned the room. The air vent near the ceiling was loose, the screws halfway undone. Fresh scratches marked the metal grill, not like tools, like nails. He stood on a chair and pulled it open. Inside was a small folded paper. It was one of Milo's school photos, a second-grade portrait. Someone had drawn X's over the boy's eyes and written in messy handwriting on the back, "You're next." Tom didn't speak. He called in a full security sweep. Every vent, every crawl space, every ceiling panel. They searched the entire building. They found nothing. Later that day, Tom took Milo outside for a walk in the back lot. He hoped some fresh air would calm the boy's nerves. They circled the station's perimeter, a uniformed officer trailing close by. As they passed the maintenance door, Milo stopped. He stared at a janitor's closet. "That's where he went," he whispered. Tom opened the door. It was a narrow storage space. Shelves lined with cleaning supplies, a mop, bleach bottles, a bucket, and on the walls scratched faintly into the paint, with what looked like a nail. Granger was here. Tom stared at it, the letters shaky but deliberate. It wasn't over. It hadn't even begun. The sun was rising, casting a soft orange hue over the quiet parking lot behind the station. Tom stood still, staring at the scratched words in the janitor's closet. Granger was here. His mind ran in 100 directions, but all paths led to one fact: Grant Jensen had never been executed. He wasn't dead, he was out there, and he was watching his son. Tom turned to Milo, who stood frozen a few feet behind him, clutching the jacket Carly had draped over his shoulders. The boy's eyes were wide, his lips quivering. "I told you," Milo whispered. "He's back." Tom made a decision right there. "Get Milo out of the station," he told the nearest officer. "Somewhere safe. Don't tell anyone where." Dana met him at the front door. Minutes later, she looked pale, holding a printout in her hands. "I found something," she said, breathless. "You need to see this." She led him to her desk and opened a folder. Inside were documents, some printed, others handwritten. These were buried deep in old court archives. It took a backdoor request just to get clearance. "What is it?" Tom asked. Dana looked him in the eye. "Evidence from a case in 1999. Grant Jensen's first psychiatric evaluation, not public, suppressed from trial." Tom scanned the papers, his heart slowed. There were pages from a therapist who had worked with Grant in prison, notes describing him as manipulative, calculating. But that wasn't what caught Tom's attention. It was a line at the bottom of the page. Patient expressed detailed knowledge of physical escape routes within correctional facilities, obsessed with reverse engineering standard execution protocols, referred to it as the performance of a lifetime. Tom's jaw clenched. He planned this. Dana nodded. "It gets worse. I found a leaked document from the week after his supposed execution. A private security contractor, not tied to the prison system, billed the state for high-risk inmate transport and substitute witness protocols. The payment went through, but no record of who was transported or where." Tom rubbed his temple. "So the execution was staged. The witness never saw the body." "They saw someone," Dana said, "but not Grant." Tom didn't sleep that night. He stared at the wall of his office, now covered in photos, documents, and maps. Everything pointed to one chilling conclusion: Grant had faked his own death and used Milo's isolation to come back. But how did he get inside the station? Where was he hiding? Then Tom noticed something on the security feed from 2 days ago. A repairman, logged under the name Wendell Jones, had been allowed access to the HVAC system. Routine inspection. Except Wendell Jones didn't exist. Tom rewound the footage, zoomed in on the man's face, hat pulled low, mask over his mouth. But there was something familiar in the eyes. It was Grant. At 3:14 a.m., the station lights flickered. A circuit breaker tripped in the lower level, where the maintenance tunnels connected to the old boiler room, an area that hadn't been used in over a year. Tom grabbed a flashlight and a sidearm. He didn't call for backup, not yet. He didn't want to risk spooking whoever was down there. The stairs creaked under his weight as he descended into the dark. The air grew colder, damp. Pipes hissed above his head. At the end of the tunnel, he saw it, an old metal door slightly ajar. Tom raised his gun and pushed the door open. The room smelled of mildew and rust. Dust clung to every surface, but it had been disturbed recently. A folding cot sat in the corner, used, food wrappers, a stolen police uniform draped over a chair, maps pinned to the walls of the station, of Milo's school, of Tom's house. And there, standing by a cracked mirror, was a man in a faded hoodie. "Evening, Detective," Grant said quietly, turning around. Tom aimed the gun. "On your knees, hands behind your head." But Grant didn't move. He smiled. "You know what they say. You lock up a smart man, he only gets smarter." Tom stepped closer, careful not to lower his guard. "You faked your death." "Of course I did," Grant said. You think I'd let some rookie poison cocktail take me out? I paid a price for freedom. Years of planning, disguises, buying people. You tortured your son, Tom snapped. You made him believe he was losing his mind. Grant's smile faded. I protected him. I watched him grow from the shadows. I taught him to be quiet, careful, just like I was taught. You're sick. No, Grant said calmly. I'm ahead. You people, you don't understand what it takes to survive. You build cages and call them justice. But the real game is out here. Tom took another step. You came back to take him. Grant's eyes flickered. I came back because you poisoned him against me. Because you turned my son into a scared little animal. He's mine. Tom moved like lightning. One step, two. He lunged, slammed Grant against the wall, forced his arms back, and cuffed him in one clean move. You're done, Tom growled. This time no performance, no second act. Grant didn't resist. He just smiled again. I already got what I came for. Milo was safe, hidden in a secure cabin monitored by multiple officers. When Tom arrived with news of the arrest, Carly burst into tears. She hugged her son tight, whispering promises that the nightmare was over. Tom knelt in front of Milo. He's gone now, he said. He's going away for good. Milo nodded slowly, but then with the quiet calm of a child who had seen too much too soon, he asked, "Where's the other man?" Tom blinked. What other man? Milo looked up. The man who helped him. The one in the van. The one who said he'd come back for me if Daddy didn't. Tom's stomach turned. Back at the station, Tom reviewed all the case files again. Every detail, every photo, every audio clip. And then it hit him. The second voice. They had assumed it was Grant's, but Milo had always described it as different, deeper, slower. Tom pulled up the voice recording one last time and sent it to an external analyst for confirmation. An hour later, the report came back. Second voice does not match Grant Jensen. Identity unknown. The case wasn't closed, not even close. Someone else had been helping Grant, watching Milo, planning from the shadows, and they were still out there, watching, waiting. If you like this story, make sure to like and subscribe. Also another to strengthen our community. Let us know in the comments where you are watching from and what time you are currently watching this video.